Shalom, I'm Rabbi Michael Panitz of Temple Israel, Norfolk, Virginia, speaking to you from the pulpit of our synagogue. It is now November 10th, 2021, which, as we will see, is a somber anniversary. So I'm speaking to you on a serious and somber topic: leaders and cheerleaders of hatred. In Charlottesville, Virginia, this week, the civil suit against leaders of the 2017, quote, Unite the Right rally continues. 24 white nationalist individuals and organizations are accused of, quote, conspiring to commit racially motivated violence. Among those named in the suit are Richard Spencer and Matthew Heimbach. Let's remember who these two people are. Richard Spencer is the white nationalist who celebrated election night in 2016, along with his supporters, by raising their arms in a flurry of Nazi-style salutes. After the deadly aftermath of the 2017 rally, he fired off a tirade of hate, denouncing religious and racial minorities and saying that, quote, they get ruled by people like me. In court this week, he tried to distance himself from his assertions, but the plaintiff's attorneys, playing the tape of his own words, made it abundantly clear that he is one of the leaders of the white supremacist movement in America today. As for Matthew Heimbach, he tours campuses and gives speeches in which he calls for a, quote, white ethno-state. He expresses his admiration for Adolf Hitler, even in the midst of the current trial. In one part of the questioning, the plaintiff's attorney elicited that Heimbach had his followers salute him with the greeting, Heil Heimbach. Heimbach wrote a message of support to James Alex Fields, Jr., the man sentenced to life in prison after having been convicted of driving his automobile into a crowd of counter-protesters and killing Heather Heyer. In his message, Heimbach told Fields that, quote, you are a martyr for our folk. Notice the Nazi-style usage of the term folk, as well as the misappropriation of the halo of the martyr. Essentially, calling the murderer Fields a martyr is an American version of the Nazi canonization of Horst Wessel, the Nazi stormtrooper killed by communists in 1930. As a Jew, an American, and a student of history, listening to the news of the trial, I hear echoes of two older themes. First, the timing of this trial is powerful. Last night and today, November 9th and November 10th, are the anniversary of Kristallnacht, the so-called Night of Broken Glass, in which Nazis systematically attacked the Jewish community in Germany in 1938. The name of the night is taken from the abundance of broken glass from synagogues all across the country. During my graduate student days, I was privileged to study Jewish philosophy with a German Jewish refugee and professor. As a young man, he was swept up in the wave of arrests of Jews on November 10th, this day in history. He was lucky to survive incarceration in Dachau concentration camp. He was my academic mentor in the 1980s, but when he spoke to me of the brutality to which he was exposed, I could see that 45 years of surviving had not erased the sharp memories of the trauma inflicted upon him for no reason other than that Fritz Rothschild was a Jew. Second, the trial evokes echoes of the Passover Haggadah. For those who practice the 45-minute, the 30-minute, or the straight from wine to matzah balls version of the Seder, you might not recall the rabbinic discussion in the Haggadah about Lavan, whose name in English is generally pronounced Laban, the father-in-law of our patriarch Jacob. But for those who are up for the intellectual challenge, even in the presence of a food-laden holiday table, the discussion about Laban is strange in a good way. It is intellectually provocative. The rabbis make what on the surface is an audacious claim, that Laban was even worse than Pharaoh. The rabbis point out that Jacob is the people Israel in its inception. And looking at Laban's hostility to Jacob, that is to say, the people Israel, the rabbis say, Pharaoh only decreed against the infant males, whereas Laban wanted to uproot and destroy the Jewish people as a whole. I don't think we should read this statement literally. I don't think the rabbis meant it literally. Pharaoh was a mass murderer. That's clear from the Bible. Hitler was the Pharaoh of his generation. But the Labans, people who claimed to be decent Americans, defending their heritage from the onslaught of un-American newcomers. The rabbis are telling us that we should never underestimate the damage that they can do, and that, given the opportunity, they actually inflict. Using the rhetorical device of the rabbis, perhaps the Spencers and the Heimbachs of America are not Pharaoh. They might be Hitler wannabes, but they're not Hitler. They're not Pharaoh. But they are the Labans of our day. As Jacob needed to defend himself from Laban, struggling with him for years and even for decades, so is it for the Jews of America, and for those, Jew and Gentile alike, who cherish a country in which diverse Americans can link arms in the common cause of promoting a humane society. We need to be prepared to defend ourselves against the propaganda as well as the strong-arm tactics of American neo-Nazis, however they choose to rename themselves. In powerful language, the Haggadah also sums up the perennial challenge confronting us. We read in its pages, B'chol dor vador omdim aleinu lechalotenu v'hakadosh baruch hu matzilenu miyadam. In every generation, people arise against us, seeking to destroy us. But the Holy Blessed One saves us from their hand. Yes, we have faith, but we dare not sit with folded hands. We must thwart the leaders and the cheerleaders of bigotry. This is the 614th commandment. Shalom.